much.
Yes, sir. I'm going to jump right out at it. We're just going to roll, but I got a bunch of questions I want to throw at you tonight. We start thinking about the Bible, of course, because this is a church. Abraham, livestock and goods. Boaz, wealthy landowner. We start looking at Abraham. We start looking at Job, livestock, a man of influence. Lydia, a successful businesswoman. She sold purple cloth. Zacchaeus, who was a wealthy tax collector. To me, these are all biblical models of what you have exemplified with ministry and the marketplace. But of course, there are others in our time that we may not know a lot of. Some of us do. Dr. Bill Winston, Bishop Otis Lockett Sr., Dr. A.R. Bernard, Bishop Arthur Brazier, Bishop Brunner, and so many, many, many more that have created a model through the ministry and marketplace. But particularly you, how were you able to identify what was inside of you and what deserved a business model wrapped around it? The reason why I say that is because you also cook, but you haven't put a business model around it.
Well, it's a very difficult decision to make. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Can you all hear me? I'm stuck. I can't get past Abraham. And you talked about livestock, and you talked about sheep and goats and all of that, and that being a business model, of which it was, because they bartered. That was in exchange for items. They bartered for it. But I would have phrased it this way. Abraham was in real estate because God said, all of this land will I give you.
Yes, sir.
Now, the sheep and the goats and all the other things were what he did with what God gave him, okay? So the question comes down to, what do you do with God, with what God has given you? So the first thing you have to know is that you've been gifted. But there are levels of gifts, okay? Like you mentioned me cooking. When I was young, I thought I would open up a restaurant. As I got older and matured, I realized that I didn't like cooking well enough to do it every day, okay? I studied the business model and found out running a restaurant is not about cooking. You can hire somebody to cook. See, a lot of times we get our talent mixed up with our business. So the fact that you can cook doesn't necessarily mean you ought to open up a restaurant, because the restaurant is a business. And at the end of the day, the person who owns the restaurant is not in the kitchen. They hired somebody to cook. They're running the business. And I think sometimes we've confused talent with business. And we think that because we have a talent in a certain area, that we should go into business. And we end up working our talent, and we call ourselves entrepreneurs, but all we really did was create a job. Wow. There's a difference between creating a job for yourself and creating a business. Second thing is, you have to know yourself. It takes a long time to know yourself, to really know yourself, to really know what's in you. To get over the feeling of imposter syndrome takes a long time and comes back again at different stages in your life, because you don't always identify yourself as being as gifted as other people think you are. Because if you are gifted, it is normal to you. So sometimes other people define you as gifted, and you're just being what you normally are. And then you go home and wrestle with the unbelief of not believing what they said, because what they're calling gifted is your normal. So somebody who's gifted to play the piano, they're gifted to be able to do it. They studied, they rehearsed, whatever, they're gifted to be able to do it, but it's not as big a deal to the one who's playing as the one who's listening, because it's organic to who they are. So knowing yourself and letting it develop in you, when you think of people like Bloomberg, who failed at 39 and then went into business at 40, don't expect to know yourself at 20. You're not through developing yet. Your brain isn't even through developing yet. then you don't have a collection of life experiences that lead you into the fullness of who you are yet. So a lot of times we are in such a rush because of technology and watching everybody post what they're doing that we end up with a long grocery list of things we do. And when your grocery list is wider than your income, you have a problem because you don't have focus. You're doing 10 things poorly rather than picking out 2 things well. Some of the things you have on that list are your interests, but they're not your business. And to find out what is sustainable financially is important enough. I tell people, build your business around somebody's problem, and you'll always have a customer. I listened in the back as the lady was talking about nurses. That's building a business around a problem. Because of whether you're a black nurse, a white nurse, a brown nurse, a young nurse, or old nurse, there's a deficit in the hospitals for nurses. So that becomes a good breeding ground where there is a need. Then there were other people who talked about things that were really noble things to do, but not necessarily profitable. So you might either open up a not-for-profit, a 501c3, a not-for-profit, and get grant capital to start that business where you can do it. That's fine, but you're at the mercy of the grant in order to maintain the business. And you have to understand, nobility doesn't take away from the need for capital. Just because it's a good thing to do doesn't mean you don't need money to do it. So if you're going to build shelters, you're still going to need money. And so you have to think like a business. I was talking to the president of the hospital, and I was trying to do a health fair during MegaFest one year. And he says to me, we wouldn't be interested in doing a health fair at MegaFest because of the amount of out-of-town people come in. We don't get enough business from doing a health fair. And for a minute, I sat back in the seat and I thought, oh, you don't see it as a service. He saw it as a business. So if he invests into a health fair, he wants it to be a local clientele that ultimately come to the hospital. So he has made a business out of your sickness. And you see it as a service, which it is, but he sees it as a business because he's got a payroll and he's got a building to pay for and he's got insurance to provide and he has expenses that he has to think like a businessman while he hires doctors and nurses.
I want to jump in because I know interviewing you, you're going to give us some 12-minute answers, which are the greatest. But I'm going to get these questions out of you like you did in that ILS.
Okay.
Successful entrepreneurs should have an ecosystem. I've heard that term a lot since I've been here with you. Mm-hmm. What are the core fundamentals of building an ecosystem around what you do?
What do you read? What do you watch? Who do you hang around? Who are your friends? Birds, the old saying, the birds of a feather flock together. Finding people to flock with that challenge you. And initially, finding people to flock with that you don't feel like you fit with. Because if you stay with the people who you fit with, you don't grow to the people, to the person you believed you could be. So even if you come in at the ground level, even if you come in driving them around, even if you come in providing some sort of service, to get in that ecosystem where things, let me skip that, let me go to the Bible. The first thing Jesus does is pick out 12 disciples and then starts his ministry. He put himself in an ecosystem and none of them are rabbis. We pick out people who compete with us, not complete us. So Jesus picks out a tax collector, he picks out a fisherman who's a businessman, he picks out all of the, Luke, a physician, he picks out all of these different types of people and starts his ministry and says, if you follow me, I will make you fishers of men. He doesn't get men that are already fishers of men. He gets men that he can make fishers of men, but most of them were doing business, and they were doing business when he called them. And so when the Bible says, do business till I come, you'll see it in the NIV, it's do business till I come. In King James Version, it's occupy till I come. But the right translation is do business till I come. There's so many little hints that God does business. Even the word redemption is that he purchased us with his own blood. To understand that salvation was built upon redemption, and God doing business means to buy back. Okay, so understanding that and thinking like that is a mindset, and you need an ecosystem around you that supports where you're going. If you're going to be a builder and you don't subscribe to architectural designs and things like that, if you're going to be a business person, you're not reading Business Weekly, if you're not following business people, let me see who you're following. What feeds you?
Now,
I did it in 8 minutes.
I will keep rolling because we're talking about business, and I love how you brought the construct of Jesus picking the 12. When you see statistics like the black-owned businesses representing about 3% of all U.S. businesses and contribute just 1% of the gross revenue from these companies. As of 2023, the buying power of the black consumer in the United States was estimated around $1.6 trillion. How do we convert the mind of the consumer to become an entrepreneurial?
Oh my gosh, I could get up and shout.
Mentally, how do we do that? Give us some baby steps,
Those
Bishop.
stats you just gave tell everything about our community. The spending power of the black community is equivalent to some of the largest countries in the world. That if we collectively put our resources together, we could compete with nations. But the vast majority of our capital is given to spending in depreciating assets rather than appreciating assets, meaning we'd rather have it on us than own it. And it's a mindset. So your answer is in the question, it's a mindset. We have not heard people talk in such a way that it changes our behavior. And you have to hear it more than once. You have to hear it over and over and over again to detect what is money for. And it's not just a black issue. It's also a white and a brown issue. It's a youth issue. Understanding it is God that gives us the power to get wealth. It's not God that gives us wealth. He gives us the power to get wealth. He gave the man talents, 5, 2, and 1, and went away. That was the power to do something. But just because you have the power to do it doesn't mean you have the ability to do it. $1.6 trillion is the power to upset Ukraine, to change the face of the planet, to move the world around, to change the nation. We have all of that in us, and we make 1/10 of our white counterparts. So if we make $1.6 trillion, then they might make $16 trillion. I can't get my math right, but I'm pretty close. That's a lot of capital. But we can either be mad at the gap or grow the seed. We got a choice.
Yes, sir. I was looking at an article today in Forbes, How to Become a Super Successful Person in 2024 by Jack Kelly. And what they said in the article was success is a personal journey. Not everyone shares the same vision of success. To get ahead of the crowd, you must take calculated risks, work hard, embrace the uncertainties of 2024, stay focused on your own growth trajectory, and be adaptable in navigating the unexpected. They also brought something I wanted you to see that you could take a picture of if you want to. They put a SMART goals on the article that I want you to see. And they took SMART, of course, and they talked about specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. I wanted you to take a look at that and just...
I just love it.
I wanted to see what you thought about that.
First of all, success is a nebulous term. Meaning, success is not always about money. Okay? You can make a lot of money and have a broken family that falls apart and not be successful. Success, you get to determine the definition of success by the goal you have. Okay? So put that SMART back up there again, because I think it tells us some important. Specific. We are not specific. We're not specific when we pray. We're not specific when we pitch. We're not specific when we save. We're not specific when we ask. We ask amiss. You have to be specific. You have to hone in and begin to understand, I'm going to do this. And now, you can have multiple streams of income, but you can't do it all at the same time. You got to get one going, and once you get it safe enough that you can move away from it, because you are working yourself out of needing to be there so that you can do something else and get it going and work yourself out of needing to be there. That's business. That's entrepreneurship. But you have to be specific. You have to measure. Data is the most important thing, and it's the furthest thing from our mind. But it is the most critical thing. You cannot make great decisions without metrics. It drives me crazy when I'm in a board meeting or a staff meeting and everybody says, we're doing good. I said, what is good? It's expensive. What's expensive to you might not be expensive to me. Get away from using terms that don't give you real definite information. You want metrics that you can measure progress. You are not a leader if you don't move it forward, okay? And in order to know whether you're moving it forward or not, you got to have the metrics, even if you don't like the metrics you get. Now, some of us are so much into wanting to look good that we can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. You see, yeah. But if you don't know the truth, you can't fix the truth. Okay? And then to understand, is my goal attainable? Look at how God created the earth. He didn't do it in a day. When the Bible records the creation, and the evening and the morning was the first day. He said, let there be light, and there was light, and the evening and the morning was the first day, and God said it was good. There were no fish swimming, there were no stars out, there was no anything else, but he had measurable goals for that day, and then measurable goals for the second day. You can't only say it's good when you're finished. A lot of us are in love with the end, but not the process. And if you're in love with the end and not the process, then you start doing things to make you look good rather than be good.
I want to jump in right here. What are your success habits?
It's what I read. It's who I respect. It's in who I listen to. It's in my work ethic. It's in my parents, the way they raised me. My parents did not raise me to back away from a fight or an obstacle or a tribulation. If you know me at all and you watch me at all, I will confront whatever it is at all costs.
Yes, sir.
I will confront it. You know I will.
Yes, sir.
I won't talk about you. I will come right to you and say what's got to be done. You cannot be a leader and not deal with what's in front of you. I am paid to deal with the tough stuff, and I want to know what it is, and I'm going to ask you about it, and I'm going to ask you to your face. You can't be wimpish and be talking about people and paying them.
Yes, sir.
No. If I pay you, I'm going to confront you. Because for me, every employee is an investment.
Yes, sir.
And I want to see a return on my investment. As long as I see a return on my investment, I'm going to be satisfied. So I want KPIs, okay? So the KPIs enable you to be able to see performance, key performance indicators is what KPIs are. Measurable, and you should have KPIs for you, even if it's just you for yourself. Measurable performance indicators of how far you want to be in the next 9 months. So even if you fall short of them, don't be afraid of failure, because everybody fails forward. Measurable key performance indicators whereby you can indicate, am I growing at this? Am I a better wife? Am I a better father? Am I a better man? Have I lost any weight or not? You can't hide from the scales and know whether you lost weight or not. Key performance indicators lets me know whether this diet is working or not. Key performance indicators lets me know whether I need to jog more. Key performance indicators lets me know, do I have investments? Am I using the money God gave me? Because when he sent the man into outer darkness, he sent him into outer darkness for hiding what he was given rather than multiplying what he was given. Okay, $1.6 trillion? $1.6 trillion? If we got together, what are we crying about? What are we, $1.6 trillion? Yeah, well, I'm waiting to get the other 10%. Until you are faithful over a few things, you can't be ruler over many. If we all get together, $1.6 trillion, we could buy Dallas.
Yes, sir.
But the inability, and that's another thing. You must realize we come from a tribal culture, and that came over on the boat. So our propensity is to be tribal and to separate into groups, not to coalesce and congregate. But in order to be successful, other people, for example, come here, can't speak English, can't read a street sign, get one apartment, have 12 people living in it, and buy the building. We come here and get a house so big we can't put furniture in it, so that when the neighbors pass by, we're looking good. We got a Bentley in front of an apartment. We got a Mercedes, don't have a garage. You understand what I'm saying? What we are doing is taking that $1.6 trillion and giving it to other people. So part of the wealth gap comes from the misappropriation of the opportunities that we have. And how can we ask God for more opportunities when we are not maximizing the opportunities that we have been given?
I like what you just said when you talked about other races moving, ethnic groups moving. And so I'm going to just jump to the significance of collaboration.
Oh, yes.
With people coming together, Paul and Ananias and Sapphira, they co-labored together in tent making. And it's a strategic way of both brands coming together, both teams coming together. I did bring some examples of collaboration that I wanted you to look at it. Then I wanted to talk about it with you. Can you put those on the screen for us, please? GoPro and Red Bull, Joybird and Sherman Williams, Balenciaga and Crocs, Kanye and Adidas, Starbucks and Spotify, Apple and MasterCard, Levi and Pinterest, Nike and Apple, Taco Bell and Doritos, Airbnb and Flipboard, BMX and Louis Vuitton. So many that have come together and have made millions, billions of dollars. At what point is a business ready for collaboration?
From the beginning. Because you're talking about the building, the businesses. I'm thinking, who built the building? Who bought the land? Who did the development? The person who does the development and the infrastructure is different from the person who does construction. It's the person who built the building who then laid out. See, I told my brother one time, my brother used to build houses. I said, you're trying to build houses, I'm trying to build a deal. If I build the right deal, it'll build the house. You understand?
Yes, sir.
And in order to build the deal, you have to be willing to split the money. So you have to be able to bring together, you need banking resources, you need architectural resources, you need a lot of different things. So when you start talking about TDJ Rev, it is built on partnership. It's not even that many staff people. But our partnerships with other people allow us to be able to do things that we couldn't do by ourselves. And a friend of mine who runs a major construction company, and I won't shout him out, but he said something to me I will never forget. He said, when our partners got better, our business got better. Wow. When you start partnering with people who keep their word, who deliver on time, who follow through, who get a fair price. I don't mind you making money. I just want to know how much. I want to see your cost. I want to see what your raw costs are, what we call hard costs. I want to see what your profit margins are. I want to see that. I don't want you to throw a figure at me where I can't see you. I'm not trying to stop you from making money. I just want to see how much. What are the margins? Again, metrics through which we think. See, even this church is not just about preaching. What I do on Sunday is the easy part. Getting a staff to run this building, getting a bank to finance this building, paying the building off, buying the land, partnering, all kinds of partnerships were done. When I came here and built the building, Fred Propals was the architect that designed the building from a company named Beck. He's now president of the company. When I came here, I was 38, didn't even know what I was going to turn out to be. He was a junior architect and now the president of the company. Partnerships is what builds everything. Everything. Until you get where you can do partner. Well, I don't trust anybody but myself. Well, you're going to die by yourself. You was born by yourself. You're going to be by yourself. You're going to be broke by yourself. You don't have to trust me. You have to vet me. Wow. If you vet me to find out my background, psychology teaches that the best predictors of future behavior is past practices. So once you find the past practices, I know immediately what you're apt to do. And once you vet me and we got a contract, I'm a great believer in contracts. I was reading contracts before I left to come over here today. And on the phone with the lawyer saying, well, what about this part right here? This doesn't make sense. Because contracts take away the need for trust. We have a clear understanding. You can't say, I forgot, I got amnesia, I changed my mind. No. It's right here. Item C, section 4, page 48.
Yes, sir.
You understand? I'm with you all the way, all the way. If you perform this, whereas and for the which cost, when you read through all of that, don't let none of that bother you. You're looking at the line for certain things so that you can begin to understand. And then I want a contract because I don't want you to give me money and not know what is required of me, because I have to have execution on capital. So my first question when I'm sitting up there doing the bigger deals that I just did was, there was non-recourse capital and recourse capital. On the non-recourse capital, the guy says to me, on the rest of it, I want income. I want to be able to acquire properties and give you resources to put in infrastructures in underserved communities. I said, I got you. On the other part, he said, I'm not worried about income, I'm worried about impact. I said, what are the metrics on impact? What do you mean by impact? We don't ask the right questions, because if you don't ask the right questions, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. I need to be sure before I agree that you are asking me to do something that I think I can deliver on. That's very important.
I want to keep moving. Is this not great? Come on. I got a couple of things I'm going to throw at you that I didn't talk to you about.
I don't care.
This article I read, questions successful people ask themselves. It says that you should too. And there's a few slides. Go ahead, keep going. If you look at it, it says Zuckerberg's first ever public Q&A a few months ago, the question stood out was, why do you wear the same gray t-shirt every day? His answer was, I really want to clear my life so that I can make few decisions as possible about anything except how to serve my community best. Context was, decisions takes energy, and I don't want to waste my energy on decisions that I no longer need to make. And he called it decision minimization. Talk about it.
You know, I'm working on it. I haven't mastered it. I have a tendency to get caught down in the catfish in the swamp, trying to convince the unconvincible of something that even if I changed their mind, it wouldn't make any difference. Once you stop putting energy in trying to change people's minds, which has no profit. Yeah, thank you. And start focusing on doing what you need to do rather than being lacked. See, we have this psychotic need for everybody to like us, and the bigger our world gets, the more energy it takes to manage their opinion of you. And when you give up on trying to change their opinion and start focusing on what you're going to do, and you know what helps you do that? Getting older. Because when you get older, you know you're running out of time. And I don't have time to spend energy in trying to change you into liking me, because if you like me, what do I now get that I didn't have when you didn't?
I'm gonna keep moving because I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep moving. Next slide. I want to talk about another guy. All right. This is Steve Jobs. What fears are keeping you from doing what you know is in your gut that you need to do? Steve Jobs embraced failure. He took risks. Apple was on the verge of shutting down, and he came back to the company in '96. He took a $1 annual salary in the first year back, and then 2 years later, he released the fastest selling personal computer of all time. Here's how he responded. Remember that you're going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. How do you avoid the trap of thinking I got something to lose?
I started with nothing.
Wow.
The worst that can happen to me is that I go back to where I came from. And if I go back to where I came from, like Peter went back to the boat, at least I got to walk on the water. So I told God, if I lose everything I have, you're still good. Because at least I got to go.
Wow.
I got to do it, man. I got to, I could get emotional about it. For a little boy, ashy leg, boy from the hills of West Virginia with little short pants on and Brogaine shoes on and pouring ketchup on spaghetti and thought that was spaghetti sauce, to being entertained by kings and princes all over the world. If it all stops, if I drop dead sitting here, I got to go. So minimizing decisions and getting yourself to the point that you are willing to take risk, understanding that yes, you're going to lose sometime, and yes, you're going to have setbacks sometimes, and yes, you're going to be controversial sometimes. Heck, Jesus was controversial. You understand? No, can I be real with you for a minute? Can y'all handle a little reality? Jesus is still controversial. So why put energy into stuff that never ends?
I want to keep going. I've given you two guys, Zuckerberg, and I've given you Steve Jobs. Check this third guy out.
All right.
You won't always see what you're going to have to fight. So is winning really worth the public scrutiny? Now you've done so much. You've written books, movies, Grammys, built buildings. You're still building buildings. The first clergyman to have a syndicated talk show. Programs like Tory, Megacare, deals with Lifetime, Sony. And then I heard you preach Sunday and you said the award for success is a tag. How do you do it? How do you stay motivated when the award is a tag?
My friends tell me that anytime you move to the next level, you get attacked severely, and to praise God for the attack because he is toughening you for the level you're stepping into. And when I say attacked, I am not talking about somebody parked in your parking space. I'm talking about something that makes your gut wrench. I'm talking about something that makes you want to throw up. I'm talking about something that if you could quit, you would quit. That's the entry level to the next level. I had it when I came here. Before I could come to Dallas, I had to go through that. At every level. Every one of those things I did, I got attacked for it. You're a preacher, you're supposed to be so sorry. Wait, I was a person before I was a preacher. I'm not going to let you put me in a box of how you define who I am. I'm not going to do that. I'm not. They call Jesus the carpenter's son. You stay in your place, you're the carpenter's son. You can't allow people to lock up your vision or allow yourself to think that defending yourself and changing your mind is victory. Because if you defend yourself and change their mind, what do you get? The challenge of being a leader is to not lose focus on what you're doing in the middle of the storm. And when I'm up under attack, the message that I preach that keeps me going is to be steady in the storm. Wow. I walk the floor telling myself, be steady in the storm. And in my mind, and I'm a visual person, so in my mind, I'm driving through a hurricane, and debris is coming from every direction, and I can't let go of the wheel. I gotta be steady in the storm. No matter what they say, no matter what they do, no matter who comes, no matter who goes, no matter what they think, no matter what they say, I gotta be steady in the storm. Because if you get your eyes off of that and you start watching the debris that's flying all around, then you'll wreck your car swatting at a gnat. They'll find you dead over the hill and never find out what killed you, because the gnat will fly away out the window. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to understand as a leader, as you build, as you grow, as you develop. And this is why we want to call entrepreneurs together and train them. It's not just access to capital. It's not just being around other entrepreneurs. It's not just hearing other testimonies. It's not just getting your accounting, and all that stuff is important. But we want them to understand that hard times go with success. It is the usher that ushers you into success. It is, you can't, just because you dreamed of you can dream of being president of the United States. You had no idea what it would be like to be the president of the United States.
Hold on. I got another one I want you to take a look at. And I thought about you today. This quote is an old quote. It says that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. What does that mean to you? And because I've been fortunate enough to be around you, how does it feel walking into rooms where you're the student again?
Oh my gosh. This is the last part. Let me answer the first part first. When you were ready, I appeared.
Wow.
If you had not been ready, I would have not appeared. When I laid hands on you in the back of Cheryl Brady's church, the Potter's House of North Dallas, in the back of a room, I laid hands on you and told you who you were.
Yes, sir.
And that was only because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's that question. The other half of the question is, you keep on being the student again. Every time, if you don't become a student again, you're not going to the next level. Every time you come to the next level, you have all the uncertainty of discovery. So as we build our companies right now, it's totally different from building a church. Understanding the difference in the laws, the difference in the regulations, the difference in how you approach things, the difference in the difference to how our community responds. See, our community wants God to give them a business. We still believe in magic from the motherland. We don't want to study, we don't want to read, we don't want to take a course, we don't want to do anything that's necessary to get there except pray and talk in tongues and dance and spin around 3 times and believe God and hop on one foot and say, this is my year to be blessed. But we don't want to do what it takes to get there. And now I'm having to deal with the shocking reality that we have gone out to all these corporations and got all of this stuff for good soil and all of this capital. That's what I thought was going to be hard. Okay, and the devil always hits you where you're not looking. I thought the hardest part was going to be to get the corporation to put the capital in to grow businesses in underserved communities, which are not always black, by the way, because I grew up in West Virginia and I've met a lot of poor white folks in my life. So, but whatever underserved means to you, we thought it would be hard to get the companies to invest it. It was way easier to get the companies to invest in underserved communities than to get underserved communities to invest in themselves and come out and get what was given to them. That's the hardest part of doing what we're doing right now. It is way easier to build houses in underserved communities than it is to get people to get their debt up under control and bring their credit score up so they can buy the house you built even though you brought it in their range.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, I know that there are wealth gaps, there's information gaps, there's access gaps. There's so many gaps, but what do you attribute our inability, our uninterest to show up?
We don't sit in rooms where people talk about money. Two things church don't talk about that everybody's interested in but nobody talks about is money and sex. So we don't get it at church. You can get a PhD and not understand how to handle money. You don't sit around talking to your children about money. The little bit of whatever success means, whatever it is that I attained in life, the little bit I attained came from my mother and father dragging me down to Miss Rutherford's house in the Institute, listening at them jointly file taxes between his business and her job, and listening at that, sometimes sitting in a hot car. But I was in the room. I was in the room when my mother negotiated to buy a house on the Elvira Road. And the woman told, I almost called her name. The woman told my mother she didn't want to sell the house. And she told her husband, that's all right, we'll get it back. And my mother, I was about 9 or 10, maybe 12 at the most. And my mother said as she was walking out of the door, when hell freezes over. Being a little boy watching my mother negotiate changed my life. Watching her buy properties and say 802 hadn't paid yet and 607 needs to do so and so and 605 needs to do so. Being in the room, these weren't big fancy houses, nothing like that, don't be impressed. But when my mother had Alzheimer's, she was still drawing rent. She had forgotten she had houses and was still getting income. She had her teacher's retirement. She was the Equal Employment Opportunities representative for the state of West Virginia. She had retirement from that. And she had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses, I think.
Yes, sir.
When she had Alzheimer's. And the little boy she was holding his hand ended up holding hers. And I'd tell her, Mama, 607 just paid. And I said, 605 just paid, 802 says they're gonna have theirs in 5 more days. And she looked up at me and she said, I don't care no more, baby. She led a lifetime of thought around me.
I'm glad you did that because I want to segue into thinking. You stated before that you worked through the age of the Industrial Revolution, and when the tides changed, you weren't prepared. You said this time is coming again with technology. So coming from not being prepared and now staying ahead of the tide, how have you been able to think ahead, and how can you help us tonight?
Because of the things I listen to and the things I read while you're watching comedy shows and Housewives of Duncanville, feeding yourself on junk food, feeding yourself on flipping through the Instagram pages. Have you noticed we went from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok and each one of them got shorter? Do you know that the shorter the reels got, the shorter our attention span has become as a species?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We are teaching ourselves to have short attention spans. So you can't have long thoughts if you got a short attention spans. So you've got to be in a place where you're thinking about things from a very different way. What I tried to do as the senior pastor of this church was not give you a lot of fluff on Sunday. I study.
Yes, sir.
I study, and I study the Bible, and I study the Greek, and I study the Hebrew, and I study the world, and I study the times. And this is what I'm telling you right now, probably the most important thing I'm going to say tonight. I have been telling us and telling us and telling us that AI is coming in and taking over jobs. AI is doing a lot of good stuff. It's creating cures. My wife's surgery, her second surgery on her knee replacement, compared to her first one 12 years ago, there's no comparison in how much better robotical technology has made in the terms of knee replacement today than it was just 12 years ago. So it's a completely different experience. Still painful, still tough, but nowhere near like the first time. It was horrific. So there's a lot of great things about AI. 70,000 jobs are about to be lost in this country in the next 8 years. 70 million jobs are about to be lost in this country in the next 8 to 10 years. 70 million jobs. There are only about 360 million people in the whole country. So you are looking at a huge portion of what you're working at right now is going to be taken away. And if you don't retool yourself seriously into something serious, what's left of our middle class is going to fall into the abyss of poverty. And I was going to Black Economic Summits and things like that 10 years ago. So seeing it coming, part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing with Good Soil and things like that is trying to get us, because if we fall through the cracks, the jobs you got now, the machines are gonna be doing it. You remember when the riots broke out and the white supremacists were saying Jews will not replace us? I looked at the camera and laughed, and I said, no, but AI will. It's going to replace all of us. And if you aren't moving, that doesn't make AI demonic. That means that you have to retool yourself. Start your business, take some classes, do something with yourself. I'm too old. You're not too old. I told you Warren Buffett was 40 before he got started. Most of the billionaires and billionaires that we have in this country became billionaires after 50. We allow ourselves to think ourselves old too quickly. We rule ourselves out of the opportunity to live an abundant life because we got a few gray hairs. We got to start thinking differently. By the same token, the young people give up on themselves because they haven't found themselves by 30. Who finds yourself by 30? You don't know nothing yet. You haven't seen nothing yet. Your marriage hasn't seen nothing yet. Don't write no books to me about marriage at you 30. Shut up. Shut up. You can teach Sunday school about it, but you can't teach me nothing until you've been married 30 years or 40 years and gone through menopause and gone through crisis and gone through infidelity and gone through all kinds of stuff that goes along with marriage. Don't tell me after 7 years you know marriage. You don't even know you. Marriage is a project that takes a lifetime. It takes 30 minutes to perform a marriage, a wedding, and it takes 30 years to live up to the vows. Because you don't know what faithful is the first day. You don't know what faithful is the first year. You don't know what faithful is until failure and disappointment. You haven't seen him when he doesn't have a job. You haven't seen his temper yet. You haven't seen her attitude when she's tempted. You haven't seen her with a doctorate degree and you're still a plumber. Shut up. You don't know what you got yet. Time teaches you what you got. Oh, I felt that other thing. I felt that other Holy Ghost rise up. It takes time. You give up too soon. You give up on each other too soon. People don't stay married 50 years. because they was happy? Who told you that you were supposed to be happy all the time? You're supposed to stick together and be committed. Your kids get on your nerves, but you don't kill them. Longevity, teaching our people to think about things differently, is what I tried to do my whole life. My whole life. From beginning to right now was to, as I've told God, if you teach me, I'll teach them. And that was the deal we made when I was 19. In 2 years, it'll be 50 years later.
Wow. I think it's interesting is you've been teaching that on the pulpit, in boardrooms, and I was going to move into real estate. You kind of tapped it already, talking about the mean credit score for our people is 580, so that makes it hard to access capital. You qualify for an FHA loan to buy a house. You've already talked about making sure that you're reading the right things, talking to the right people, collabing with the right people so that you can get access to capital and home ownership. But when we take a look at these hedge fund companies that are buying thousands of homes, interest rates fluctuating, and then you compare our white counterparts whose home average is $250,000 and ours $24,000. Coupled with a 580 credit score, it becomes hard to close the wealth gap. It becomes hard to purchase, and so now the hedge fund companies are buying the properties. It makes renting easier. You don't have the money to pay down on a property. Do you think that big business purchasing these homes will lock people into renting and interfere with home ownership?
If they don't listen to me, it will. Rich people have been buying poor people's neighborhoods up as long as there's been a country. All the way back through history. We was living on the beach. They bought it all up. Then fixed it up, made resorts, and made billions of dollars off of it. Rich people have been buying poor people out all the time, condemning neighborhoods and starting over again. If your credit score is down, and it may not be your fault. It may be your education, it may be your opportunities, it may be racism, it may be laziness, it may be a whole lot of things that we can look at. Let's look at all of them. Let's look at all possibilities. And let's not lie to ourselves and call it racism if we're sitting up eating Whataburger and spending all of our money everywhere else. Excuse me, Whataburger, don't sue me. And doing all kinds of stuff, and we don't do the things we do to cut back where we can. There are grants that you can get. There are grants you can get when you go to Good Soil. Grants that are available. There are government grants available. There are veterans loans. There are FHA loans. You can get a quadruplex and with an FHA loan and get the other tenants to pay all of your mortgage and make money while you go to work.
Yes, sir.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do. If you got a whole life insurance policy, you can pull it out of the whole life insurance policy. And you can take it out and not have to pay taxes on it and use it for the down payment on the house and get the house. And don't let the interest rate stop you, because let me tell you something, when the interest rates go down, the cost of the house is going to go up. And the interest rates now, though they are higher than they were only because they were low because of COVID, are not nearly as high as they were 15 years ago when they were 12 and 15%. So we're sitting up here letting what we heard on the news about interest rates stop us from getting the houses that we could get right now. And we could take advantage of grant monies on a state level, on a city level, on a federal level, but we don't go to places where they're talking about that. We go to places where we're blaming other people. We have one narrative. And the hardest narrative is to look at me, God. What am I doing to myself that I need to do differently? Because I can't control whether you like me or not. I can't let my life be stunted by whether you like me or not. So thank God for civil rights, but I'm interested in civil rights. Because if you get civil rights will come in order.
Yes, sir.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
People treat you. You know what I found out? Poor people don't get the health care that rich people get. They don't get treated the same. They get more mastectomies. They get more hysterectomies. They just come in. The answer is to just cut it out. They don't do that with rich people. They get better food, they get better health care, they get better treatment, they get better stuff. This is not, and now I'll get criticized for saying this. They're gonna call me a prosperity preacher because they always label who they want to kill. If you study the Holocaust, it started out with name calling. And what our country does now is anything we want to kill, we call it a name first. Whether it's the Native Americans, you call them savages, because you don't want to feel like I'm killing a person. So you label them with a name so you don't have to feel guilty about destroying them. So what we do is start calling people names, and we assassinate their character, and we set out to kill them, and we accuse them of stuff that we're guilty of, but we haven't got caught. And so when we get them out in a corner that justifies us to stop their message or their movement or their upward mobility. And what you have to do ultimately is come to the point within yourself that you say, what can I do to improve myself? What are my KPIs? How do I go forward? I hope I answered your question.
You did, and you went on and on. And I want to ask one more thing about housing. What do you see as the greatest challenge in the housing market over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that America is fastly becoming a renting society. And the only problem with a renting society, there's nothing wrong with renting. I rented for years. I don't even have time to tell that story. I rented for years and years and years. But the only problem with a renting society, when you own your own home, especially if you buy wisely, if you buy repossessed property, there's places and guides you can go to that give you repossessed properties at reduced prices. If you assume loans, you can get lower interest rates with an assumable loan. You have to work harder now, but you can get up, okay? And the reason that's important is, one time I was preaching here, and I was preaching on the 100-fold return. God will give you 100-fold return. And I was just preaching about some 30, some 60, some 100-fold. And I got in the elevator and God said to me, I've given you 100-fold return. And I said, no, you haven't. Because I was looking at cash. I didn't see 100-fold return. And he said to me, go get your house appraised. I got my house appraised. It was worth 100 times more than what I paid for it. I told my wife, pack the bags, we got to go. She said, what's wrong? I said, wow, the market is up, we got to go.
Yes, sir.
So we took that equity out that house and bought 2 houses.
Yes, sir.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I didn't realize, sometimes God will hide your harvest. And if you are ignorant, you can't find it. So I was ignorant of the valuation of my house. I knew what I paid for it, but I didn't know that just sitting in that house, it had doubled in income, and I was wealthier than I thought I was and didn't even know it. So if you pay $200,000 for a house, and especially if you get it in a decent neighborhood or a halfway decent neighborhood or a neighborhood where they're putting business or a neighborhood that's burgeoning or a neighborhood that's about to come forth, you pay $250,000 for a house. If you can find it, God help you. And then you sit in that house 3 years and it's worth $450,000. You made $200,000 sleep.
Yes, sir.
Add that to your salary.
One question, and then we're going to take questions. We're going to take questions. So get ready to ask questions. We just got a few minutes to ask those questions. Last question I have for you is, What did you have to sacrifice, and what did you give up to be where you are?
Almost everything. Almost everything. Everything I thought I was going to be, everything I thought I was going to do, almost everything. Almost everything. He gave me a vision of myself, and I didn't look nothing like the vision. And I had to turn into what he showed me. And it was very hard. And it's still hard. You think I want to take this stuff? You think I want to be, you think I got to take this stuff? To serve the Lord is to lay your life down. It costs almost everything. You look at what it gave, but you don't look at what it took. It cost everything. Pick up your cross and follow me. It's not a cute saying. It cost all of the things that you liked about yourself. He crucifies about yourself and shapes you like the potter does the clay into whatever he wants you to be for his own divine purpose. And that is what Christianity is all about. It's submitting to the will of the potter, not the will of the clay. That's why I preached in an empty building, because I told him I would. It was never the crowd that moved me. Bless his high name. It was never their shouting that moved me. I love his word. I love his word. And one of my great fears for the church today is that I see too many preachers who love the response of the crowd more than they do the depth of the word. And so they'd rather give the crowd baby food and make them shout than give them steak and make them chew.
Glory to God. I want to say this to you, and then we're going to have questions. If you got questions, we're going to move quickly. I took this for real tonight. This is my finest time to interview my pastor. And I stayed up all night preparing these questions, and my admin helped me prepare these questions because I believe in who you are. That's why I moved here, because of who you are. I serve you. I serve the Lord, but I serve you. And this is my greatest interview ever in life. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. I honor you, and I love you, and I take this serious.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you have questions, we got about 11 minutes. Scan that QR code. If you're online, scan that QR code. We're going to ask your questions. We're going to let Bishop talk for a few more minutes. He's talked the entire night, but we want you to have the opportunity. Here we go.
Thank you, Bishop. I just want to pivot back to when you talked about nobility and how that's not conducive to good business. Did I hear you correctly on that?
No, I'm saying that having a noble cause doesn't run the company. You still have to pay the bills. Like, your heart is for the hurting people. That's wonderful. That's noble. But if you don't have any money, you can't feed them. So while you can have the noble cause, you still got to think like a business person in order to be able to meet their need. If the blind lead the blind, this is how the Bible said it. If the blind lead the blind, they both fall in the ditch. The fact that you love me and I'm blind and you blind don't help me to walk. So what happens in church is we have all these noble causes but no business acumen. You cannot serve your cause if you don't develop your acumen. That's what I'm saying.
I have an online question. It says, what would be the best approach to build a high-performing entrepreneurial team?
They say to our CEOs, always be interviewing. So Every time I meet somebody, so what do you do for a living? How long have you done that? Where did you go to school? What are your experiences like? They don't know it, but I'm not just making conversations. I'm trying to see if there's some place that you can fit in what I'm trying to do. And if there's not, that doesn't mean I fall out with you or throw you away. We can still be friends or everything, but I'm always trying to figure out what do I need to coalesce. So Jesus comes up, walks up to the people who are washing their nets. You're always interviewing people, you know. Have you any meat? All of those questions are trying to get you to do an analysis of the people that you have around you so that you can better define whether you need them around you or whether you need them around your kids. Okay, I'll stop there. Go ahead. Okay, just wait a second. I'll get you right after her. You just stand right there. If you can't get up, I'll get you.
So my question is, if the Word of God says, how can two walk together except they agree? And if you're in an unequally yoked situation, speaking of marriage, but you can't seem to come together in where the vision of God is taking you as being the wife, how do you navigate a situation where God has given you a clear vision and you have clarity of that vision, but how do you navigate a situation where it is unequally yoked, but yet you can't move forward in what you believe God is taking you in your business as far as the vision goes?
A lot of people have made bad choices in their marriages. But the Bible told us not to be unequally yoked believers with unbelievers. But if you're in it, you're already in it. The first thing you have to learn in life is how to negotiate. It's about sharing. It's not all about your vision. It's not all about his vision. This is an example I always use. If a man is on a camel and they only got one canteen of water, if the camel drinks all the water, the camel lives, but the man dies. What good is the camel living if the man dies? If the man drinks all the water and the man lives and the camel dies, he don't have any way to get there. So marriage is about compromise. Okay, what are your dreams and what do you need from me? My wife and I ask this question every year, the first of the year. And then what are my dreams? What are her dreams? And what does she need from me? And then we divide up the time. Sometimes I am serving her. Sometimes she is serving me. Sometimes when I say serving her, I don't mean, putting her makeup on, all that kind of stuff. She don't want me to do that. But sometimes I'm unlocking doors, making phone calls, helping her to achieve what she's trying to do, entertaining people that I don't want to be bothered with, but there's people that she wants to entertain. Sometimes she's getting the house ready for things we want to do. We're partners. And you don't have to be perfectly aligned in every way in order to be together. All you need is for him to be flexible enough to commit some time to supporting your dream. And the way to get it is to commit some time into acting like he's the best thing since sliced bread. And all that matters to me is making you happy. When a woman makes a man feel like that, he'll give her anything. Men are so easy. Y'all make men complicated. Men are easy. It's easier to grow a plant to have a man. If you just do 3 things, we good. And you know what they are. Get them done. He'll help you. I bet you. Yes, ma'am.
I got it.
Let her hold the mic. Just ask the question.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon. It's an
Good
honor
afternoon.
to speak with you, Bishop. After God bless you if you're responsible over small things, God will bless you over more. If you're responsible over small things, God bless you over more. So you be responsible over small things because you know that God will bless you over more. And once you do that and you start meeting people that know things that you don't know, God start opening up doors, showing you things. Then after you start taking a step on that blessing you more, then you get this fight going on, like you was talking about earlier. But you don't know what the fight is for because you didn't come from that. You came from housewife, the cooking and the housewife part. And so you don't know the business part because all you ever thought is faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. The scripture about he'll bless you. I can't even think of it because I'm in the midst of this. But you think just those small things. So you go forth with it, but you got a fight going on. You got a war going on. You don't understand the war. So you ask questions and you stand still to ask the question, what do you want? So that you'll know how to go to God and ask God, God, can you teach me or tell me or direct me, give me the right application so that I'll be able to understand how to respond with this battle?
And is this battle in your house?
This battle is everywhere.
Okay.
This battle is everywhere. Just teaching and trying to get in the business part of a mom and pop shop. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have you. The only difference is the income. The income, the only difference is the income. So with the income, then I have small business owners just trying to direct. Okay, do this or do that or do this or do that. I have people come to me that I don't even know. Says, sign this piece of paper right here because you can't pay for this court cost. Sign this piece of paper, and what it's going to do is going to waive your court costs, and it's going to set you up for a court date. And once you do that, then you go to your court date, and then the judge will set you up for a court date because it'll waive because of the.
I don't sign nothing. Let me get this thing over here. I don't sign nothing that I don't understand. I don't care if they have to explain it or write it in Braille. I don't care if they have to write it with a crayon. I don't sign nothing that I don't understand. And so you have to do it. And part of the problem, it sounds like to me, because I'm trying to understand you, it sounds like you're so busy doing the work that you don't have time to run the business. And that part, that is normal for small businesses. But what you want to do is get your business, you may start out that way, you want to get your business to a place where you can back up off of it and see what it needs. The fight is going to be going on when you dead. The goal is not to win the fight. You didn't get in the business to stop the fight. You got in the business to be profitable. Didn't you hear what I said? The fight is going to be there all the time. And that's something that I think you got to understand. The fight doesn't never stop. It changes names, it changes dresses, it changes tactics. It goes from the Inquirer to the YouTube. But the fight, in all the years I've been me, there's always been somebody who hated me. So I couldn't spend the rest of my life trying to fix the hate. I got to go ahead because you'll run out of time. I watched my relatives die crying about things that are still going on after they gone. You can't spend the rest of your life crying about stuff like that. You got to focus on, I fought a good fight, I kept the faith, I finished my course. Let me take another question. I'm trying to get it.
We'll take one question, and then the others, you guys just write them, and we'll get them to Bishop's team to help get you an answer. So we got time for one, and then we got to dismiss.
All right, Bishop, you talked about talent, you talked about entrepreneurship. Being a person of talent, my camera has sent me to 4 countries, been on tour with Kirk Franklin, reunion tour and all of that, but my business is being the solution for business individuals. Tomorrow I'll be working with an investor with $2 million, closing that deal, working with universities that contract me out. Since I couldn't get to you, I moved here from Gary, Indiana. I couldn't get to you, so I got to your leaders connected to you. So my question to you is, what do I have to do to get connected to you to sit at your table?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly how to answer that. I can say this, that if you got connected to somebody that's really connected to me, they think like me. All of my kids, all of my natural kids got some kind of feature like their father. All of my leaders, if you don't see some of me in them, then they're an imposter, okay? And the other thing is, you fascinate me because it sounds like you're on the verge of something major, and managing it correctly is important. You're perfect for good soil, because if you're doing these multi-million-dollar deals on that level, we'll take people that's just starting out and raise them up. That's what good soil is all about. But people who have these amazing opportunities, especially your age, there's something that fast tracks your generation occasionally because of technology, that you get to do stuff that it took us years to do, and it comes real fast, and you're real smart, but it takes time to have wisdom, okay? And so getting that wisdom so that you are, let me give you this quick, because I could spend a lot of time with you. Everything that you don't have to live off of, you want to scrape that back and invest it somewhere. Invest it in real estate. You're always growing it. You're always growing it. You're always growing it. You got to think about it like this. I'm not going to be young long. There's an old man inside of you counting on you to make good decisions so that when he gets old, he can eat off the decisions you made when you were young. So you're buying retirement homes, you're buying property. I want you to have something to show for all that you just told me. I'm not talking about Instagram posts and stuff like that. I want you to have something tangible to show for it. And every time God gives you something, you turn it into something more, okay? At least life insurance, health insurance, those natural things, those fundamental things. Then from that, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, real estate, senior citizens. One of the biggest businesses, most successful businesses in the country is laundromats, because you don't need any staff. You come by once a month and collect. You build them in the right neighborhood. The maintenance is low. The profit margin is high. Next thing is senior living. Investing in senior living. Maybe you don't build the building, you just got the land. Maybe you got the land, somebody else builds the building. You form a joint venture and you start investing into that. Maybe you don't completely own it, maybe you own a third of it, but that third of it has a pro rata share that pays you back at the end. Maybe in 5 years you sell your third out at 20% return. Stock market is not making but 10, but your savings account is making what, 3?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, so that is nothing.
I want y'all to clap your hands for our pastor. I want y'all to come get it. Thank you, Bishop. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Make him feel real good. Come on, y'all. Thank you, sir. If you didn't get a chance to give, you're watching online. If you're sitting in the room and you didn't get a chance to give, we want you to sow into the kingdom of God. This was a master class from the greatest of all time, our own pastor, Bishop T.D. Jakes. Those of you that did not get to ask your questions, make sure you turn them in to our assistants. We'll get them to Bishop and his Good Soil team and get you taken care of. We love you. We'll see you Sunday.